After the success of Arcane, Riot has confirmed 3 new animated series will cover the regions of Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia. Each of these places is filled with lore, characters, and stories ready to explode onto the screen. So, what might these new series look like? Noxus is an empire driven by ambition and strength, where anyone can rise if they're ruthless enough to seize power. It's a land of conquest, political intrigue, and unrelenting warfare. This makes it a perfect setting for a series packed with high-stakes drama. Jericho Swain isn't just a general. He's a man who embodies everything Noxus stands for: ambition, strength, and the will to do whatever it takes to win. But Swain's rise to power wasn't straightforward. Once a decorated commander, Swain suffered a humiliating defeat during Noxus's invasion of Ionia, losing both his arm and his position. While most men would have been broken by this failure, Swain saw it as an opportunity. Exiled and disgraced, Swain sought power in the unlikeliest of places, the demonic realm. His pact with Ram, a demon of immense power, granted him supernatural abilities and a chilling new perspective. With Ram's influence, Swain can glimpse fragmented visions of the future, giving him an edge in the game of political chess that defines Noxian leadership. But this power comes at a cost, raising a central question. Is Swain still in control, or is Ram using him as a pawn in a far greater scheme? A Noxus series focused on Swain could weave together several narrative threads. On one hand, you'd have the high-stakes political intrigue as Swain rises to the position of Grand General, outmaneuvering rivals like Borum Darkwill, the tyrant he overthrew. This isn't just a story about war, it's about the subtle, dangerous game of power that defines Noxian society. Swain would face not only external enemies, but also internal challenges, from backstabbing nobles to the enigmatic Black Rose, a secretive cabal pulling strings from the shadows. But the heart of the story would lie in Swain's personal struggle. How much of his humanity is he willing to sacrifice for the sake of his empire? The series could explore his relationship with Ram in depth, revealing the complex and uneasy alliance between man and demon. Swain isn't a villain in his own eyes. He believes in the strength and unity of Noxus, yet his methods, often brutal and manipulative, force the audience to wrestle with whether the ends truly justify the means. The series could also expand the world of Noxus itself, showcasing its diverse population. From warlords and warriors to spies and mages, Noxus thrives on the contributions of its people, regardless of their origin. Swain's inner circle could include characters like LeBlanc, a powerful manipulator with ties to the Black Rose, and Riven, a warrior struggling with her own disillusionment about Noxian ideals. These characters would provide contrasting perspectives on Noxus's vision of strength, creating a rich tapestry of motivations and conflicts. Visually, the show could alternate between grand battle sequences and shadowy meetings in the halls of power. One episode might show Swain orchestrating a masterful victory on the battlefield, while another delves into the tense politics of the immortal Bastion, Noxus's capital. The contrast between Swain's public image as a steadfast leader and his private dealings with Realm would add layers of tension, keeping viewers hooked. Ultimately, Swain's story is about the price of ambition. How far can one man go before he loses himself entirely? A Noxus series exploring Swain's rise could be Riot's answer to shows like House of Cards or The Witcher, a dark, morally complex narrative that challenges viewers to rethink what it means to lead. Darius, the Hand of Noxus, is the very embodiment of the Empire's ideals: unwavering strength, discipline, and a belief in the unrelenting pursuit of power. But unlike many Noxians who rise to prominence through political scheming, Darius's ascent was earned on the battlefield. His story is one of grit and survival, growing up in the harsh outer territories of Noxus, where only the strongest endure. This makes him not only one of the most fearsome generals in the Empire, but also one of its most respected. He doesn't just command loyalty, he inspires it. A series centered on Darius and the Trifarian Legion would explore the realities of war from the perspective of those on the front lines. While Noxus prides itself on being a meritocracy, war is never simple, and Darius would find himself questioning whether the Empire's relentless conquests truly align with its ideals. Does strength justify oppression? Does victory excuse the loss of innocent lives? These moral questions would clash against Darius's unshakable belief in Noxian unity, creating an internal conflict that drives the narrative. The show could start with Darius leading a campaign into one of Noxus's neighboring territories, perhaps the Freljord or Shurima. Through his interactions with his soldiers, we'd see what makes the Trifarian Legion so formidable. The Legion is a symbol of Noxian strength, composed of warriors who have proven themselves to be the best of the best. But within this elite group, there would be personal rivalries, shifting loyalties, and characters whose beliefs about Noxus don't always align with Darius's. These dynamics would provide insight into how Noxus's philosophy of strength manifests on the battlefield, and how it sometimes fractures under the weight of reality. One of the central relationships in this series could be between Darius and his brother Draven, where Darius is disciplined and focused, Draven is flamboyant and self-indulgent. As Noxus's most infamous executioner, Draven revels in the chaos of battle, seeking fame and adoration, rather than fighting for a higher cause. Their sibling bond would be both a source of strength and a point of tension. Draven might question Darius's unwavering loyalty to Noxus, while Darius struggles to understand his brother's reckless pursuit of glory. Their differing views would reflect the larger debate within the Empire. Is Noxus a force for unity or merely conquest masquerading as progress? The series could also explore Darius's relationships with other key figures in Noxus. One intriguing dynamic might be with Riven, a former soldier who deserted the Empire after witnessing the horrors of war. If Riven were to cross paths with Darius, it could lead to powerful moments of reflection, forcing him to confront the darker side of Noxian ideals. Could Riven's disillusionment plant seeds of doubt in Darius, or would he see her as a traitor unworthy of redemption? Another layer of complexity could come from the territories Noxus seeks to conquer. Unlike other empires that rule through fear, Noxus prides itself on integrating conquered lands into its society, offering its people a chance to prove themselves. But not everyone sees conquest as liberation. The show could depict resistance movements within these territories, with leaders who challenge Darius not just on the battlefield, but ideologically. These confrontations would force him to grapple with the consequences of Noxus's expansion. What happens when the pursuit of unity leaves cultures and traditions destroyed in its wake? Visually, a series about Darius and the Trifarian Legion would be a feast for the eyes. Imagine massive battle sequences set against sprawling landscapes, fields set ablaze during a siege, or the icy tundras of the Freljord painted red with war. But it wouldn't just be about the grand scale. Intimate moments between battles, where soldiers share their fears and hopes, would ground the story in humanity. Darius himself could be shown as a leader who doesn't just issue orders from afar but fights alongside his men, earning their loyalty through action. At its core, this story would be about loyalty and what it truly means to fight for something greater than yourself. Darius believes in Noxus with every fiber of his being. But as the series unfolds, we'd see him begin to question whether the empire he's devoted his life to is still the force for unity he once believed in, or if it has lost its way. The result would be a morally complex tale of war, leadership, and the personal cost of unwavering loyalty. Ionia is a land of beauty and balance, but that harmony was shattered by the Noxian invasion. Now, Ionia struggles to recover, torn between its peaceful traditions and the need to adapt to a violent world. Its characters are caught in this conflict, and their stories are as spiritual as they are action-packed. Yasuo and Yone's story is one of betrayal, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Set against the lush, mystical backdrop of Ionia, their tale intertwines deeply personal struggles with the larger conflict of a region, torn between tradition and survival. At its core, this is a story about guilt and forgiveness, and the devastating choices that can fracture even the strongest relationships. Yasuo's journey begins with tragedy. As a gifted swordsman and promising disciple of Ionia's teachings, he was destined for greatness. But when Noxus invaded Ionia, chaos engulfed the land, and Yasuo abandoned his post to join the fight, defying the orders of his master. This choice set off a chain of events that led to his master's death, a crime for which Yasuo was blamed. Accused of betrayal by his peers, hunted by his comrades, and haunted by his failure, Yasuo became an outcast, wandering Ionia in search of meaning and redemption. This wandering would define Yasuo's character in a potential series. His travels could take him to different corners of Ionia, from serene forests to ruins scarred by war. Along the way, he would encounter Ionian villagers struggling to rebuild their lives, spiritual entities tied to the land's energy, and warriors grappling with the same questions of honor and duty that torment him. These interactions would deepen Yasuo's understanding of the world, while forcing him to confront his own guilt. The turning point in Yasuo's journey comes when he crosses paths with Yone, his older brother. Yone's death was another consequence of the chaos unleashed by the Noxian invasion and Yasuo's perceived betrayal. Now Yone has returned, not as the man he once was, but as a spectral warrior bound to the spirit realm. His transformation is not just physical. Yone carries with him the burden of unresolved emotions, anger at his brother, and the weight of the supernatural forces that have given him a second life. A series focusing on these two brothers could be an emotionally charged exploration of their relationship. Yone's presence would force Yasuo to relive the pain of his mistakes, while Yasuo's attempts to reconcile with his brother would challenge Yone's perspective on the past. Their interactions would range from tense and confrontational to moments of vulnerability, where the depth of their bond shines through, despite the years and death that have come between them. The spiritual landscape of Ionia would play a crucial role in their story. This is a land deeply connected to its natural and mystical forces, and Yasuo and Yone's journey would often blur the line between the physical and the spiritual. Imagine episodes where the brothers venture into the Spirit Blossom Festival, a mystical event where spirits and mortals interact, or encounter a Vastaya tribe whose connection to Ionia's magic reveals new layers of its culture. These elements wouldn't just be visually stunning, they'd underscore the themes of renewal, balance, and the lingering impact of the past. The series could also weave in larger conflicts tied to Ionia's struggle for identity. After the Noxian invasion, Ionia stands divided between those who believe in returning to its peaceful traditional ways and those who argue that adapting to the harsh realities of the world is the only path forward. Yasuo, a warrior who abandoned his teachings, and Yone, a man caught between life and death, embody this conflict on a personal level. Their journey to reconcile with each other would mirror Ionia's broader quest to find balance. Combat, of course, would be another highlight. Both Yasuo and Yone are master swordsmen, and their fights could be beautifully choreographed to reflect their contrasting styles. Yasuo's fluid, wind-infused swordplay would clash with Yone's precise and spectral techniques, creating duels that are as much emotional as they are physical. These battles wouldn't just be spectacles. They'd carry the weight of their unresolved past, with every strike and parry telling a story of anger, regret, and longing. As the series progresses, Yasuo and Yone's journey could shift from personal reconciliation to confronting larger threats tied to Ionia's spiritual energy. Perhaps they uncover a disturbance in the balance between the mortal and spirit realms, forcing them to work together despite their differences. Through this, their relationship would evolve, culminating in a moment where they must decide whether to let go of the past or allow it to destroy them. A Yasuo and Yone series would resonate because of its deeply human themes. It's about the pain of living with your mistakes, the difficulty of seeking forgiveness, and the hope that even the deepest wounds can heal. Combined with Ionia's breathtaking landscapes and rich lore, this story has the potential to be as visually stunning as it is emotionally gripping. Ionia is a land of balance, but balance does not mean peace. The region is split between those who cling to its ancient traditions and those who believe that survival requires change. This conflict is perfectly embodied in two of its most influential leaders, Karma and Zed. Their ideological battle represents Ionia's larger struggle to define its identity in a post-invasion world. A series centered on these two could be as much a political drama as it is a spiritual and action-packed saga. Karma, as the spiritual leader of Ionia, represents the essence of the old ways. She is not just a champion, she is the living reincarnation of the Ionian people's will, chosen by a cycle of rebirth to guide the nation through its trials. Karma believes in the value of harmony, tradition, and the spiritual energy that connects Ionia to its land. Her methods are peaceful, and her vision for Ionia is one of renewal and unity. But with the scars of the Noxian invasion still fresh, her ideals are increasingly challenged by those who see them as too passive, too detached from the harsh realities of the modern world. On the other side is Zed, the leader of the Order of Shadow. Zed was once a student of balance, but the invasion of Ionia changed him forever. Watching his homeland suffer under the brutality of Noxian forces, Zed became convinced that Ionia's traditions were not enough to protect its people. He embraced forbidden shadow magic, rejecting the teachings of his master and founding a new order dedicated to taking whatever means necessary to ensure Ionia's survival. Zed's philosophy is simple. In a world ruled by violence, survival requires power, not balance. A series featuring Karma and Zed would be a story of competing ideologies, with both characters embodying different visions for Ionia's future. Their conflict wouldn't just be physical, it would be deeply philosophical, with each champion believing they are doing what's best for their homeland. The tension would come from the fact that neither side is entirely wrong. Karma's ideals offer peace and preservation, but they risk leaving Ionia vulnerable. Zed's methods are pragmatic, but they come at the cost of tradition and moral clarity. This ideological clash could be explored through key moments of confrontation between the two. Imagine a scene where Zed infiltrates one of Ionia's sacred temples to destroy an ancient artifact he believes is holding Ionia back, only to be confronted by Karma. Their battle would be more than just blades and energy. It would be a conversation in motion, with each strike representing their convictions. These confrontations could escalate throughout the series, culminating in a moment where both leaders must decide whether they are willing to compromise or if their visions for Ionia are too fundamentally opposed. The supporting cast in this story could further enrich the narrative. Champions like Shen and Akali would bring additional perspectives. Shen, as the leader of the Kinku Order, walks the line between tradition and pragmatism, struggling to mediate between Karma and Zed. Akali, a rogue warrior, rejects both extremes, seeking her own path in a land she feels no longer understands her. Their involvement would add depth to the story, showing that Ionia's struggle is not just a battle between two leaders, but a conflict that touches every corner of the region. Another compelling layer to the series could be the spiritual consequences of Zed's shadow magic. While it has granted him immense power, it has also disrupted the balance between Ionia's physical and spiritual realms. This imbalance could manifest as rifts where dark energy leaks into the land, threatening both the people and the spirits that call Ionia home. Karma, with her deep connection to the spiritual plane, would see this as evidence of Zed's recklessness. Meanwhile, Zed might argue that these disruptions are a necessary sacrifice for Ionia's survival. This supernatural element would elevate their conflict, adding stakes that go beyond politics and philosophy. Visually, the series could be stunning. Karma's connection to Ionia's natural energy could be represented by serene, glowing environments and intricate displays of spiritual power, while Zed's shadow magic would create stark, foreboding imagery of creeping darkness and sharp, precise strikes. Their battles would blend martial arts choreography with mystical effects, creating sequences that feel both grounded and otherworldly. Beyond the action, the series would delve into the personal costs of leadership. Karma carries the weight of generations on her shoulders, constantly questioning whether she is worthy of her role as Ionia's spiritual guide. Zed, on the other hand, wrestles with his own demons, both literal and figurative, as he faces the consequences of the dark path he's chosen. Their internal struggles would humanize these larger-than-life figures, making them relatable and compelling. A Karma and Zed series would be more than just a story about Ionia. It would be a reflection of the timeless struggle between tradition and progress, peace and conflict. In the end, the show could leave viewers asking, can a nation truly survive without compromise, or does survival always demand a price? It's a question that has no easy answer, which is exactly what would make this series so captivating. Demacia prides itself on its shining ideals of justice and honor, but beneath that polished surface, its rigid anti-magic laws and unyielding traditions are creating cracks. It's a land on the brink of change, and its characters are at the heart of this conflict. Jarvan IV, the crown prince of Demacia, represents the kingdom's shining ideals, justice, honor, and duty. But behind the gleaming armor and noble rhetoric lies a man grappling with the weight of leadership in a kingdom that's not as perfect as it claims to be. A series centered on Jarvan IV could explore the conflict between the man he wants to be and the king he's expected to become. Jarvan is a warrior and a leader raised to believe in Demacia's principles of unity and justice. However, the kingdom's strict anti-magic laws, rooted in fear after generations of conflict, are becoming harder to justify in a world where magic is increasingly essential to survival. These laws aren't just policies. They're a cornerstone of Demacian identity, meant to protect the kingdom from internal chaos and external threats. But as Jarvan grows closer to the people he rules, he begins to see the cracks in this foundation. The story could begin with Jarvan on a military campaign, leading Demacian forces against a threat like Noxus or the growing rebellion led by Sylas. In the chaos of battle, Jarvan's ideals would be put to the test. Perhaps he encounters a mage fighting to protect their homeland, whose courage forces him to reconsider Demacia's blanket condemnation of magic. These experiences would plant the seeds of doubt in Jarvan's mind, pushing him to question whether his kingdom's rigid traditions are truly just, or if they're rooted in fear and oppression. A major arc in this series could focus on Jarvan's relationship with Sylas, a former mage prisoner turned revolutionary. Sylas is not just an enemy, he's a symbol of everything Demacia fears. He wields the kingdom's oppression of mages as a rallying cry, gathering outcasts and rebels to his cause. For Jarvan, Sylas's rebellion is both a political and personal challenge. Their interactions would be layered with tension and complexity as Jarvan is forced to confront the consequences of his kingdom's policies. At the heart of this dynamic is the question of responsibility. Sylas argues that Demacia's oppression of mages is a moral failing, while Jarvan defends his people's need for order and safety. But as the rebellion grows, Jarvan begins to see the human cost of Demacia's ideals. This isn't just a battle between two men, it's a clash of visions for the kingdom's future. Can Demacia adapt, or will its refusal to change lead to its downfall? The series could also explore Jarvan's relationships with other key figures in Demacia. His bond with Garen, the noble and unshakable leader of the dauntless vanguard, would be a cornerstone of the story. Garen represents the unwavering belief in Demacia's ideals, which could put him at odds with Jarvan's growing doubts. Meanwhile, Lux, Garen's sister and a secret mage, adds another layer of conflict. Jarvan's discovery of Lux's magic would force him to confront his own biases and the realization that even those closest to him are affected by Demacia's laws. Visually, the series could alternate between the grandeur of Demacia's capital, with its pristine white stone architecture and golden banners, and the gritty, chaotic battlefields where the kingdom's ideals are put to the test. Scenes in the royal court would highlight the political intrigue of a nation torn between tradition and reform, while moments in the countryside could showcase the lives of ordinary Demacians living under the weight of their laws. The emotional core of the series would be Jarvan's personal growth. At the start, he is the perfect Demacian leader, noble, brave, and steadfast. But as he faces the realities of leadership, we'd see him evolve into a more nuanced figure, one willing to question and even challenge the values he was raised to uphold. This journey wouldn't be easy. Jarvan would face opposition not just from his enemies, but from his allies, his family, and even himself. The question at the heart of his story is this: can a leader remain true to their ideals while adapting to the needs of their people, or is the weight of the crown destined to crush the man beneath it? This story would resonate with fans because of its blend of personal stakes and larger political drama. It's not just about a prince, it's about the future of a kingdom struggling to reconcile its past with its present. With themes of duty, identity, and the cost of leadership, a Jarvan IV series could be a cornerstone in Riot's animated universe. Lux and Sylas embody the growing cracks in Demacia's shining facade. Lux, a noble woman with secret magical abilities, is a symbol of everything Demacia pretends doesn't exist, a mage hiding in plain sight, struggling to reconcile her loyalty to her kingdom with the truth about her identity. Sylas, on the other hand, is a revolutionary who has no patience for Demacia's hypocrisy. He's not just a man with a grudge, he's the leader of an uprising determined to burn down the system that oppressed him and so many others. A series centered on Lux and Sylas would be a story about rebellion, identity, and the cost of choosing a side. At its heart, it's about two people who want to change their world but stand on opposite sides of the battlefield. Lux's story begins with her isolation. As a member of the prestigious Crown Guard family, she is expected to embody Demacia's ideals of justice and purity. But Lux's magical abilities, which would mark her as a criminal under Demacian law, force her to live a double life. She trains in secret, honing her powers while desperately trying to hide them from her family and friends. Her brother Garen, the leader of the Dauntless Vanguard, represents everything Lux fears. His unwavering devotion to Demacia's anti-magic laws means that even he might not forgive her if he learns the truth. Sylas, meanwhile, comes from the other side of Demacian society. Born into poverty, he was imprisoned as a child after his magical ability to absorb others' powers was discovered. Sylas's years in captivity shaped him into a man filled with rage, bitterness, and a singular drive to bring down the system that oppressed him. When he escaped from the Mage Seeker prison, he didn't just flee, he ignited a revolution. Sylas's rebellion is fueled by the anger of countless mages who have been persecuted under Demacian law, but his methods are brutal, and his vision for the future is anything but peaceful. The relationship between Lux and Sylas would be the emotional core of the series. At first, they might seem like unlikely allies. Lux's empathy leads her to help Sylas escape prison, a decision born from her growing unease with Demacia's rigid laws. But Sylas's rebellion quickly forces her to question whether she truly understands the consequences of her actions. While Lux wants to change Demacia from within, Sylas believes that the system is beyond redemption. Their dynamic would shift as Sylas's methods grow more extreme, creating a rift between them. Are they friends? Enemies? Something more? Their relationship would be messy, complex, and deeply compelling. A major theme of the series could be the moral ambiguity of revolution. Sylas is undeniably a victim of Demacia's oppression, and his cause is just. But his actions, burning villages, executing nobles, and using stolen magic to wreak havoc, raise the question of whether justice can be achieved through such violent means. Lux, on the other hand, is forced to confront her own privilege. As someone who has benefited from Demacia's system, even as it oppresses others like her, can she truly understand what Sylas and his followers have endured? The supporting cast would further enrich the story. Garen, as Lux's brother and a staunch defender of Demacia's laws, would represent the personal stakes of her struggle. How far can Lux go to protect Sylas and his cause before she risks losing her family? On the other side, characters like the Mage Seekers, who enforce Demacia's anti-magic policies, would highlight the systemic nature of the kingdom's oppression. Meanwhile, Sylas's growing army of mages and rebels could include characters with their own motivations and backstories, from those who see him as a savior to those who fear his ruthlessness. Visually, the series could play with the stark contrast between Demacia's pristine sunlit cities and the darker, grittier world of Sylas's rebellion. Lux's magic, with its radiant light and dazzling effects, would contrast with Sylas's raw, chaotic power, creating visually stunning battles that reflect their opposing philosophies. Imagine a climactic confrontation where Lux's carefully controlled spells clash with the destructive force of Sylas wielding the stolen magic of multiple mages. It wouldn't just be a fight. It would be a battle of ideals. At its core, a series about Lux and Sylas would be a story about choice. Lux must decide whether to stand with her kingdom or with those it has oppressed. Sylas must confront whether his pursuit of freedom will cost him his humanity. And together, they must grapple with the question that lies at the heart of all revolutions. Can a broken system be reformed, or must it be torn down entirely? It's a question with no easy answer, which is what would make their story so powerful and resonant. While much of Demacia's story focuses on its royal court, its laws, and its mages, the kingdom is much more than its capital. Beyond the shining spires and gilded halls, ordinary soldiers fight to protect Demacia's borders, uphold its ideals, and preserve its way of life. Quinn, a ranger knight and one of Demacia's most skilled scouts, offers a fresh perspective on the kingdom, one that is rooted in the struggles of its everyday heroes. Quinn's story begins far from the royal court. Raised in a small Demacian village near the kingdom's untamed borders, she grew up far removed from the politics and ideals that dominate Demacia's leadership. Her life changed forever when her twin brother, Caleb, was killed in an ambush while they were scouting the wilderness together. Devastated and alone, Quinn could have turned away from her duty, but instead, she pushed forward, driven by the memory of her brother and her belief in protecting the people who couldn't protect themselves. Her most steadfast companion is Valor, a majestic eagle who saved her life during that fateful ambush. The bond between Quinn and Valor is more than just a partnership. It's a testament to trust, resilience, and survival. In a series, this relationship would be a central theme. Valor isn't just a tool or a pet. He's an extension of Quinn herself. Their dynamic would provide moments of both levity and poignancy, balancing the darker, grittier elements of her story. A series centered on Quinn would focus on her missions as a ranger, taking viewers to the farthest reaches of Demacia's borders. These wilderness regions are rife with threats, marauding bandits, magical creatures, and incursions from rival factions like Noxus. Quinn's role is to serve as Demacia's eyes and ears in these dangerous territories, often acting alone or with minimal support. Her independence sets her apart from many of Demacia's other champions. She's not a knight in shining armor or a leader commanding legions. She's a scout, operating in the shadows and on the fringes of the kingdom. This isolation could serve as a key theme of the series. While Quinn believes deeply in Demacia's ideals, her experiences on the front lines expose her to the kingdom's flaws. She sees firsthand the suffering of border villages neglected by the capital, where rigid laws often do more harm than good. As a soldier who enforces Demacian authority, she begins to question whether the kingdom she's protecting is truly living up to its promises of justice and honor. A Quinn series could also explore the broader geopolitical tensions of Runeterra. As a scout, she might uncover Noxian forces encroaching on Demacian territory or stumble upon ancient magical artifacts tied to the Rune Wars. These discoveries could pull her into conflicts much larger than herself, forcing her to navigate a world where the lines between allies and enemies aren't always clear. Her encounters with foreign cultures like the barbarian clans of the Freljord or the wandering merchants of Piltover would expand the world of Demacia and highlight its place in a larger, interconnected Runeterra. The series could also dive into the complexities of Quinn's character. While she is courageous and resourceful, she carries the weight of her brother's death and the isolation of her role. Episodes could explore her inner struggles, revealing her doubts, fears, and moments of vulnerability. Her relationship with Valor would provide a grounding force, offering both companionship and strength in her loneliest moments. Imagine a scene where Quinn, after narrowly surviving a harrowing mission, confides in Valor as if speaking to her brother, the eagle's silent presence reminding her why she continues to fight. The tone of the series would be a mix of adventure and introspection. Each episode could follow Quinn on a self-contained mission, whether it's tracking a dangerous fugitive, investigating mysterious disappearances in a remote village, or defending a border outpost from a Noxian assault. Over time, these standalone stories would build into a larger narrative, perhaps involving a brewing conflict between Demacia and one of its neighbors, or even a revelation about the kingdom's leadership that forces Quinn to choose between her duty and her conscience. Visually, a Quinn series would be an opportunity to showcase the untamed beauty of Runeterra. From the dense, misty forests of Demacia's outer territories to the icy peaks of the Freljord and the vast deserts of Shurima, the series could explore a wide range of environments. The action would be dynamic and grounded, with Quinn's skill as an archer and scout taking center stage. Her combat style, which combines precision strikes with acrobatic movements and support from Valor, would make for thrilling sequences that highlight her resourcefulness and agility. At its core, a series about Quinn would be a story about the unsung heroes of Demacia, the soldiers who fight not for glory or power, but because they believe in protecting their people. Through Quinn's eyes, we'd see both the best and worst of Demacia, as well as the toll of serving a kingdom that doesn't always live up to its ideals. It's a tale of resilience, loyalty, and finding purpose in the face of doubt, making it a powerful addition to Riot's animated universe. Riot's decision to explore Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia is a bold step into the vast world of Runeterra. Each region has its own flavor. Noxus brings ambition and conquest, Ionia offers spiritual and emotional conflict, and Demacia challenges its own ideals of justice. These stories could expand on the brilliance of ARCANE and take us deeper into the League of Legends universe. Which region are you most excited to see? Let's hear your thoughts.